sipping sunset in the Richmond too. Guess I ain't that cool.
So the Park and Ocean Railroad was franchised to run from the corner of Haight and Stanton here, where this little black rectangle is. That was the depot. It ran down Stanton Street for 1 block, and then curved across Golden Gate Park to the alignment of H Street, which would be right about at Willard around here. And then it went straight out H Street, all the way to 48th Avenue, and then curved into the park and ran through the outer end of the park, and then along La Playa, or 49th Avenue, to Balboa and 49th, or La Playa, as you would call it. Lush Golden Gate Park with its trees and bushes and grasses and flowers, and on the other side, a desert. A native plant environment, but was mostly shifting sands. It ran through Golden Gate Park at 2 locations. There's a couple of things you can see in the park. If you go to 47th and Lincoln, and you walk into the park, you'll notice that there's a little hill that goes up and then drops when you reach South Drive. That little hill is an abutment for what was a bridge that used to go across South Drive. This right-of-way exists as a path now, but it was at first a steam line and then later on a heavy-duty electric streetcar line. And it was the first transit to the ocean. But the Park and Ocean line continued to exist as a streetcar line until the 1940s, when it was discontinued in 1947. After the steam train service ended, there was these 2 depots. There was one at the ocean end and one at the Haight Street end. Well, the one at the ocean end they left alone and stayed there, but the one on the Haight Street end, they took it apart, and they made 3 or 4 different little waiting shelters for this line. One was at 9th Avenue, one was at 14th Avenue, another was at 41st, and there was one right next to the overpass in Golden Gate Park. When the line first opened, they used 4 steam dummies, which were the kind of small locomotives that were, enclosed by a shroud that was made it to look like a streetcar. But later on, after the midwinter fair, they bought these locomotives so they could haul larger trains of freight for the midwinter fair. And so Park and Ocean was very well equipped with something like 7 or 8 locomotives by the time they finished running steam. This is 1903. We're looking at car 703. It's on the private right-of-way in back of the U.S. Life-Saving Station, immediately north of the Main Drive subway and south of Fulton Street, Main Drive being Kennedy Drive. To the right, the buildings to the right that you see are part of the Life-Saving Station, which was run by this Life-Saving Service, which now is part of the Coast Guard. The Lincoln Way Boneyard was originally known as the H Street Car House. And it was intended that this was supposed to be the car house for the new lines that were to be built in the western part of the city. And it occupied the entire block bounded by Funston, 14th Irving, and Lincoln Way. And it was originally established in 1907. And originally, like I said, it was intended to be enclosed, and the same contractor that built the Elkton shops out in the Ingleside district on Ocean Avenue was supposed to build this very same car house on in this location here. And so the building never got built. So 30 years pass, and by this time, this open yard in the Sunset District, which was built in a neighborhood of sand dunes and cabins, is now surrounded by nice middle-class homes. So it has become something of a bit of a blight, if you will. So in the 1930s, the Market Street Railway said, well, we would like to build a car house here to shelter everything, to keep it out of the weather and to, make it look better. But by this time, there was so many enemies that they had acquired in the neighborhood over this that everybody just said, no, forget it, no, forget it, no, forget it. So for another 15 years, the Funston Yard remained the Sunset District's principal eyesore. 7 line was closed in parts. The overpass, as shown at the South Drive overpass, was for some reason, I don't know if it was structurally or what, it was embargoed for streetcar purposes in 1947. So the line was cut back from Balboa and La Playa to 45th and Lincoln Way, where there happened to be a crossover where the cars could change direction. And that was the outer terminal of the 7 line until its end of service in 1948.